Good morning. We are learning the mitzvah saseh of the Rambam, and we come across two mitzvahs that are written near each other in the Torah, and yet the Rambam has different approaches to them. At least it seems at some point. So mitzvah saseh chof ches. Rambam writes, lahaktir Torahs pamayim b'yom, to be maktir, bring Torahs incense twice a day. He brings the pasuk of v'hikta olav aron Torahs up. Now, there is the mitzvah written right near it of Shemen Hamishcha. So in the mitzvah saseh, he writes, limshayach v'hanam gedolim u'malachim b'Shemen Hamishcha, to anoint them. So as of now, it looks similar. Now, I want to take us to the Rambam in different places. In Hilchis Klei Hamikdash, he writes, Perek Beis Halacha Aleph, Hakteris Nasis B'chol Shana V'Shana. Hakteris is made every year. It's a yearly thing. It's made once a year. Now, this is based on a Gemara in Krisus, and something that we say every day in Kabbanis, Peter Hakteris, Ketzat, we'll go through that whole thing. Now here he writes another line which is really difficult. Making it is a mitzvah. Now, we just read the mitzvah. Doesn't say anything about making it. And Esparshu, B'Torah, what they are. Halacha Beis tells you there's 11 Samamonim. Halacha Gimel, he goes into more detail. And he says, bring every day one mana, half in the morning. He doesn't get into that. Shloish meyes v'shishim v'chamisha mana k'mineged yemoy sacham. 365 corresponding to the days of the year of this sun. And then there were 368, so the extra was made for Erev and Kippur, that you would make a daka, minadaka, thinner and more refined, more fine, until he got enough for a handful. And the rest remains extra, meaning the rest of that handful, because 3 monim is way more than you're going to get into a handful. And that becomes Meiser Akteres, and he references what he wrote in Shkolim, which we will discuss. What does he write there? Okay. Now, let's go back a perik in Hilchis Klei Hamikdash. And there where he writes, mitzvah saseh lasi Shemen Hamishcha, to make Shemen Hamishcha. And why do you make it? Doesn't say anything about him being Meshach HaKoyin, doesn't say anything about being, that doesn't say anything about Kanan Gedolim and Malachim, just Mimuchen for everything that needs Mashiach. Shenema Vasisa Oise Shemen Mishchas Kodesh. Okay. So, both in Hilchis, in Perek Aleph and Hilchis Klei Hamikdash, there seems to be a contradiction to what he wrote in Minyan Hamitzvohs. And in Perek Beis, there's a contradiction. Because in both of them, he writes there's a mitzvah to make it, and not mentioned there. But when it comes to Shemen Hamishcha, so then the Rambam, just to note that there is this Minyan Hamitzvohs, and then there's the Protei Hamitzvahs, I'll say the halachas, which he takes all the mitzvahs and puts them in according to the halachas. And then there's a Hagdama to every Perik, where he actually, where every halacha where he lists the mitzvahs. Now, usually that's very similar, or it is similar to the Protei Hamitzvahs. And there in Hilchis Klei Hamikdash, he writes, when it comes to Shemen Hamishcha, He writes, Lasis Shemen Hamishcha. Lasis Shemen Hamishcha. Oh, so there he also writes Lasis. So there at least it fits to what he wrote in the what he wrote in the Rambam itself. However, when it comes to Ketores, wherever you can look, he writes Lahak Ketores. Nowhere is it mentioned as Siyas Ketores except in the Rambam and Ilchis, in the Halach itself. Okay, so now, why wouldn't you make a mitzvah of making Ketores or making Shemen Hamishcha? So the Rambam in Sefer Hamitzvohs Sheirish Yud writes clearly they're not mitzvahs. And he writes that anything that it should not count as a mitzvah, something that is an introduction to another mitzvah. And he gives examples, various examples. And amongst the examples, don't make the mitzvah that's in the beginning of Parshas Kisisa Chasamid, but count the mitzvah Ketores. Right? And also Kachlachab Samim Reish, but Shenim Shakayanim. Mitzvah Lamadei. Good, you got it. Yeah. So L'chaira, he's very consistent in those two places. So okay. So on the surface, it seems very clear that what he writes in the Minyan Hamitzvohs is the right mitzvah. Based on what he writes, clearly this is what he writes. So therefore, there's nothing to talk about. And as he says, learn on it. Okay, so now the Meiser Keyach. That was totally hard to figure out what he's talking about here. In his Akdama, he doesn't speak about last Shemen Hamishcha. And he doesn't speak about making kippurs. In Sefer Hamitzvohs, he also Ketores, and doesn't talk about making it. And then Shemen Hamishcha, he writes Muchen l'Msheach. Right? And he says you shouldn't count them. So what's going on here? Yeah. The Aruch HaShulchan just notes from the Rambam, let's go back to Ketores for a moment, that the Rambam writes, you got to do it once a year. Seems don't make it for 2 years or more. And he says that's what it would seem from the Gemara Krisis. But it's really not true. Because where would we know such a thing? Where did he learn that? And also, let's say you didn't make, could you make for 1 day? Of course. And we find that once in 60 or 70 years, you only made a half as much. So you see, you don't have to make it for 1 year. And he wants to say, therefore, it's only urcha de milsa. It's telling you, it's so hard to make. It takes a lot of work, as the Gemara teaches us many times about it. And therefore, they did it once a year. The Rishonim in Masechtas Krisis are ma'ir. Why did you make it Minyan Masacham? That's not where we count the year. We count the year according to the Ma'aseh Alavon. We're not counting to the Masacham, right? So why are we suddenly counting for Ma'aseh Alavon? Now, the Gemara says that we do 365 Minyan Masacham. Now, in the Gemara, I understand. The Gemara teaches us a lot of things. The Gemara teaches us Agad, the Gemara teaches us. The Rambam is not there for that, right? He says, Sefer Halakas Halakas. Why is he telling us that it's Keneged Ma'aseh? Who cares? Tell us the numbers, what you do with them, finished. Let's say Geil Aloch that it was connected to Yemei. And then ultimately, in the Minyan Hamitzvohs, he counts Lasa Shemen Hamishcha. By Keteris, he doesn't talk about that. See why this the difference? The same idea, same psukim. Yeah, the same psukim. Okay, so we already talked. The Rambam and Pirush HaMishnah increases. Perik Aleph Mishnah Aleph writes the you should know that there's never going to be anything else but what the Shabbat made, which is by Shemen Hamishcha. There's only one Shemen Hamishcha. Never got that's the only one that's ever going to make. Kach ba b'Kabbalah. And therefore, he writes that you don't even make it if Moshe's Shemen Hamishcha got lost. That's it. So the Reb Chaim asked the question. I mean, others ask also, but how could you count Shemen Hamishcha mitzvah if it's only done once? So Reb Chaim says he is said that Shemen Hamishcha, the mitzvah is to have it and keep it. The Yidden should have Shemen Hamishcha in order to be Moshe. And therefore it's a mitzvah days. Mitzvah days to keep it and use it. So there that sort of solves some of the problem why the Rambam writes one place. He's really giving you a total picture. It's a little hard why he's not more clear, but you combine the two and you get 1 point. That you need Shemen Hamishcha made as he and emphasis. If you look in the Sefer Hamitzvohs, he writes as follows: Tzivanu shilanu shemen osui ala miskenes amiyuchedes, the specific measurements. Muchan l'msheich v'kol kain gadol sheyisma. That's the whole idea. To have sheyilanu, we should have, and they will use it for the kain and for the melachim and so forth. So it's not really it's one big mitzvah. Now, why here he mentions this? Well, that needs an answer. I don't have an answer. Whoever has, please come forth. Okay. Now let's go to Keteris. Keteris, first of all, let's talk about Minyan Yemei. Why Minyan? We count the sun. There are different approaches in Rishonim, and I want to get to it. The Sefer HaTomid. I don't know who he is. The Rishon says that after 3 years, our calendar goes by the moon, but we even it out with the sun every 3 years. Unlike others who just let the moon run the world, and therefore their holidays change or whatever they have there changes every year. We have our halacha that no, it's got it. The sun and the moon have to end up being the same seasons. The Yom Tovim have to be in certain seasons, and therefore we have an Ibriyar and all that. So he writes like this, that we make for 365 days. Right? Whatever remains, we keep it for the night and for the Shas HaIbur. So every 3 years, we need enough when we do every year at 365. Besides what Yom Kippur. And therefore, you do 365 a year. Even though each year we don't need that much, but every 3 years it comes out like that. In order to even out the 2 years. That's an important thing to create around. Now, what happens with that 11 extra on the end of Tafshin Mem? It's Tafshin Pei the Gimel when there wasn't an Ibiyar. When it wasn't an Ibiyar, put it on the side, and we will use it next year. You don't have to do anything with it. Now, the Rosh, on the other hand, So say they also says similar thing. Again, Rosh seems similar to that. And he writes, he made it. He didn't do it. He did it connecting by Sakama because he wanted to even out. You added it. Now the Shitting Bet says no. You could. There was a system. They exchanged it at the end of the year because every year you tried buying from the new stuff. That's called Moiser Hektaris, which we'll talk about in a moment. Gemara Krisis says Moiser Hektaris Ma'ois. This is Mafrishin Schara Umnin, Umechalen Oisal Moiser Umnin, and Oisen Umnin, Scharan, V'chayzer V'leiknesim B'tum Chadash. We first were Mechalot. And then we bought it back. So the Umnin got the money, and we got the Scharum. The Umnin holidays for a month, because Hegdish of Brut, I'm sorry, Brut is good. And then we bought it back from the Umnin, and that way we paid the Umnin. We paid the workers, and then we bought it from Tumah Chadash with that. So Rashi says, Meiser K'teiros. What's the Meiser K'teiros? Shebachol Shana Inishim Ma'osim Gimel Monim Yiseirim. Those extra 3 monim, they remained extra, because all you did was a Malay no? And therefore, that Meiser Lehoyu Ra'u Yilashana Haba, Nissen Veilu, the Nissen Rosh Hashanah, the Trumas Shkolim. You have to bring new. And so too he writes in Shavuos. Taisa says, what you're talking about? Why do you need to come up with this whole Meiser? That's the whole thing. I got much better for you. I got 11 extras every year. So therefore Taisa says you don't need it. The Aruch Ner increases wants to say that Rashi wanted to do something that is every year, whereas the 11 extras only on the year of it only works on not a Rebbeinu. But it's obvious that the Rambam agrees with Rashi. Sayin, Riyad, the Chazaka, Sayin, Beresh Mishnah says clearly we're only talking about those money. Well, now what happened? Why? So I mean, you could say that, but it's harder to say that in the Rambam. So I would like to suggest that there is a basic machlokes here between the Rambam and Rambam Rashi and Taisus. The Rambam Rashi, the din is to make every year, and there's a mitzvah to make it. There's a din making the Gayus every year, and there's also a din to make it Kedeged Yemei Sacham. Now, the fact that you make it wherever that came from, I'm not getting involved in that yet. That tells you that you're required to make the fact that we make it is that the goal is to have for you by Sacham. There's a din to make 365 because yes, our goal is to equal out your Sacham and Levana. And you don't have to do anything. This is the din yearly, and to have and to bring it to the level that you can have enough for my Sacham for a Shana Muberes. Taisa says no. There's no such thing. You do each year, and why do we do 365? Whatever. He doesn't get involved, and that's yeah. Or the mills. I mean, it's also in order to get to 365, but in order eventually to get 365, but it's not a din. It's a practical like the Aruch HaShulchan says. Or the mills come. So ulai that's the machlokes Taisus and Rambam and Rashi. That Rambam and Rashi hold it's a din to make 365, and in order to equal out the Levon and the Chaf. Taisus also the mills. It's a nice thing. It's just easier. Instead of going and making 354 on 1 year when it's going to be an every year, and you're going to do 354 times plus the 30 mana, which is so hard. So you do it 11 each year, and you make the trade-off with the end of the year, Meiser Ketayos, and that's it, according to this. Rambam Rashi, that's a din that we have a rayas to make that it fits, that the Shnas HaLavan and Shnas HaChama come out equal. So it's part of the Me'asiyah. There's no reason to redo it. That's what the din of Keneged, which answers why the Rambam writes Keneged. Because the Rambam is telling you it's a din. It's not Urch in the Mills. Why is there such a din specifically by Ketayos? So I saw this one of the storm, the Sefer Birchas Eliyahu from Eliyahu Fisher, and he writes that he wants to compare it to the Talmud. The Talmud is Nishchat Keneged Hayim, Ma'ariv and Mizrach, and the Tabois, and so too there's an Indian of Keneged Hayim. Whatever. That's not really our discussion. Why? We're looking at what it says. Oh, so we can understand that difference between Shemen Hamishcha, whose whole Indian is Muchan L'Mshayach. Therefore, it's a siyasa is only a mitzvah, as it's one big mitzvah. It's not only a hagdama. That's the mitzvah, to have it, and to create it, to have it. And that's why he counts it as Shemen Hamishcha. And when you said it, but like Ketayos, the whole idea of making it is in order to bring mana l'yayim, to equal out the Shnas HaLavan and Shnas HaChama. Okay. Why does he write in Yad HaChazok Siyosim Mitzvah Sasei? So the Radva says it's like a siyasukah, a lulav. And he says, he writes, they say, lav davka. Okay, so I want to just touch on an Indian, which really needs a lot more time and a lot of discussion, but we're not here for that. Is making a sukkah a mitzvah or not? It's a Weltz machlekes. There's a Chuvas Avner Nezer that wants to say that it is, and he brings, even though the Gemara Menachos seems not like that, there's a Yishalmi, a Sukkah Latzme makes a bracha, Las Sukkah, and the Yishalmi and Peah seems to say, Kabed es Hashem Mahincha, Oise Sukkah. There's a Minchas Elazar that argues on him, and then there is a Tshuva of Tzvi, which is Magia on the Mitzvah, Goes on the Minchas Elazar. There's a Tekunas that seems to say like that it's a mitzvah, but the Minchas Elazar says it's clearly not from other things. This is massive stuff. It's a beautiful, beautiful sugya, which is not for now. And Levush says a guy can make the sukkah. How can you make a bracha? The halacha goes with that. So all of them hold that the Yishalmi is different. The Yishalmi holds that it's a mitzvah, but we don't pass like Yishalmi. Shiltis, Rabbi seems to say that it's a mitzvah. Agasukas Tasocha. So the Netziv on the Shiltis says about very nice one, that the reason that you can make the Yishalmi holds to make a bracha about it's a mitzvah for itself. It's part of the mitzvah, but it's a hechsher mitzvah. But a hechsher mitzvah that says in the Torah, since it says Chagasukis Tas, and that's what it's mashed on the shiltus, that you make a bracha. So in other words, even the Yerushalmi agrees it's only a hechsher mitzvah, but it's a unique hechsher mitzvah because it says in the Torah. So there are three levels of mitzvahs according to him. There's something that's a mitzvah with ne'atzma. There is a hachona l'mitzvah, hechsher mitzvah, to aksu that's written in the Torah. And there is a hechsher mitzvah that's not written in the Torah. Yeah. Now, those are the three types of things that we have, right? Everybody say, hey, you can say, that could be the Rambam. Well, he doesn't pass him like the Yerushalmi, but he does agree that something that says clearly Torah should be called a mitzvah. That's why he writes in the Yad, He doesn't write about other achonas the mitzvahs because there it doesn't say in the Torah clearly. And in the Torah by Keteris, there's a Keteris, right? There's a there that makes it a mitzvah nasiyah. There's a lot to talk about. There's a couple of other places where it should have been said that Rambam and Nitaka says something similar, but we'll leave it for now. Seid gesund, stark, Hatzlacha Rabba, and seid gesund.